Hi guys, I'm the Impaired Grappler and welcome to my podcast. Today we have returning for the third time Tom Barnett. So we talk about the importance of breath, water and minerals, deuterium depleted water, thirst, grounding, talk about Auto-Hemotherapia, we talk about dentistry, we talk about energizing seeds, feasting, fasting and flowing, relationship with animals in the wild, Babylon, social media and fear, especially truth in fiction, especially sort of the high technology that's been lost. And we get into a few words from Black's Law Dictionary. So I hope you guys enjoy and we'll catch you on the other side. Us. Yeah, cool. So I'll just do the intro. Not that we really need one, but yeah. So anyway, all right. Hi guys, I'm the Impaired Grappler and welcome to my podcast. Today we have back for the third time, it's Tom Barnett from Free New South Wales. Getting my states mixed up. So how are you, Tom?
Good, mate. Yeah, good to be here. How are you?
Good, man. What's it like up there now? Like when I went up there, I got out just in time. Well, I went up during that window into New South Wales, but coming back, and then a few weeks later, it was like full lockdown, and then they went a bit crazy up there. So, what's it like up there? Just every day, sort of on the street where you're at.
Yeah,
compared to
pretty good. I mean, I don't get out much, to be honest. I don't get a lot of time to go out much, but there's too many people obviously being swept up in things, but it's pretty much how it's always been, to be honest. It's just a little bit more pressure out there at the moment, but it's only from what I'm seeing as well, because it's also a lot of good interactions going around, a lot more people waking up still, despite there being a sea of masks and things. There's tons of people waking up every day. So overall, it's positive.
Yeah, well, like every day, like you could go to the park, for example, and like on the weekends, and you can meet groups of people and sort of like-minded people. And I've socially distanced, of course, but I've met many people just the last few months, just made many new connections, even with the harsher lockdowns, and then even like online groups, like you've spoken before about, Telegram groups and and to be not to get stuck in all the sharing of, oh, look at this. It's like, well, we know everyone's shared all that stuff over the years, and like it's good to have the resource there. But not sure where I was going with that, but but I like how you've spoken before about Telegram and not to get stuck in all the negativity and just posting and checking the post, and like Telegram is great, but like it seems like if you follow a few pages, and just can get out of control as well. So
yeah, it's not that healthy. It's way too easy for people to just see something and share it without even looking into it, or just sharing it out of fear or sharing out of whatever it is. I don't do it. I just I see what other people do because they try to fill up my inbox with stuff, and I never watch any of it because it's all crap. So it's just, I think it's something people need to get out of the habit of. People say that if no one watched the news, there'd be no such thing as COVID. But likewise, all the people in the alternative, if they stop sharing so much, like just stuff, I won't swear at it, but if they stop sharing all that around, I think they'll find their lives a lot better as well, because the fear level will be nowhere near where it is now. I think people are self-creating it. Yeah, there's some stuff going on, but if you weren't getting so embroiled in it, you'd be operating at a different level and you wouldn't be in that fear level.
Yeah, because I do feel there's like that. There's there's like a negative energy in the air. So it's like if you like go into it, then it gets more and more, and it's like fed in by all the news and everything around us. And
well, they create it, but we have to do it. We're the ones, they just make it as an offer. They want to create fear, so they put a few things in place, but it's us that makes it. Like they don't make it fearful, we do. So they just put up a few, here's a boogeyman and here's a Dracula and here's a, here's a devil thing, and then people get scared, but they don't have to. So they don't create the fear, we do.
Yeah, and it's like if we keep interacting, then we can buy into the fear. And it's like, oh my god, the truckies are going to go on strike. Yeah, go truckies. And then it's like, then they don't. Then they do. Then it's like you don't know what's happening. But it's just keeping that battery going, as says, like of negative and positive and the polarity and the the left and the right and the two. Just keeping everything, the negative energy flowing through society. And I think we can actually do that same thing with positive energy and let that cascade through society. And just like a lot of ways that we could like easily do that. Like, I don't know if you've seen Hickson Gracie, like with his new book that he's been going around talking about with Breathe, where it's
is that? No, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, he's got a new book, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Because I just saw it come out of nowhere. It's like, oh wow, shit. Because I don't really pay that much attention online, but then it's I've seen a few of his interviews, and he talks about the breath. You can't go without breath for 5 minutes. Then you can't go without water for a week, and then you can't go without food for a month. So it's like the breath is super important, and and he talks about using it to hyperventilate and actually have a physical impact on his body with his hormonal levels and his internal levels and all that kind of stuff. Just like with regards to breathing, you can just take 5 minutes a day and breathe. You can do grounding as well, but like these sort of things that at the base level, get the air right, then get the water right, get the food right. And that's like with the city life and Babylon, we're getting more synthetic and more fake kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you go more into the natural, what are your thoughts on that with regards to the importance of that? And then what would you put after food, like as importance like safety or shelter or community?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I forget his name. It's Maslow or Haslov or someone. He's got a hierarchy of needs. So there's safety and security. There's love. There's a lot of other things in there. Forget what they are. I think there's 5 of them. I mean, these are great. These hierarchies are really good for people to get a entry into what it's like to be balanced as an individual. But once you've gone past that point, it's kind of the hierarchies that as necessary, because you find that they all come back around on each other anyway. So I think they're really good for awareness, for people to become more, self-aware, to become more self-aware. So it's funny though, because minerals, if you go without minerals for, less than a minute, you're going to die. So it's actually, there's ones that are before air as well. The breath, although it's super important. And that's why I have the motto for my website, which is life in every breath. I really like centering myself with that phrase or that mantra, if you want to call it that, because it reminds me to be centered within myself and to breathe the life energy in with every breath, because we take so many breaths each day that we're not even aware of. And when we become aware of the breath, that's when we become more centered and self-aware.
Yeah, well, that's like that little poem that you have, which is pretty cool, life in every breath, but I don't know if you want to say it, but what is it? Life in every breath, beauty in every step, honor every moment, and embrace every test. And that's kind of like there's a lot of depth to what to that little poem. So it's pretty like, so breath is the air, and you can talk about that, and then the beauty in every step. It's like embrace the movement, the flow that you talk about. On every moment of gratitude, like you need the gratitude to be humble, otherwise the ego can. Yes, I'm just saying, like that little poem, and embrace every test. It's like, don't put things off, tomorrow never comes kind of thing. Learn from your experience. That's sort of what I take from that. And yeah, totally. It's I wrote that just because I didn't write it for any particular reason. It was just for me, and I just wanted to embody I wanted to encapsulate what I was feeling was really important for me, because I needed a reminder to
especially when you go through a lot of difficulty, you need a reminder to embrace that and not run from it. So that was the embrace, and to see it as a test, because it's only through being tested that we actually, like in jiu-jitsu, you've got to be tested, right? I mean, it's part of the game. It's part of the growth. And as it is with all parts of life, like my jiu-jitsu instructor always says that jiu-jitsu is a metaphor for life. Like everything that he goes, it's even funny because we pay him out in class because he just goes, yeah, see, that's like jiu-jitsu is good for that. Jiu-jitsu is good for that. And he's just like anything, washing your dishes, washing your clothes, jiu-jitsu is good for that. He's a little bit too obsessed with it. But one of the things that I brought a friend to their first lesson, and they were trying to escape from side control by turning away. And Reese, my instructor, he says, no. You got to turn into your partner. You got to face your problems. And he goes, it's much like life. You've got to face your problems, turn into them. And she thought that was the best thing. Like that was the best thing she got out of that lesson. And it's true. There are a lot of similarities between the metaphors for training, whether it's jiu-jitsu or something else, and then the way that it's more fruitful to approach life.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's it's like when Professor Sauer talks about it. Yeah, it's just jiu-jitsu. Yeah, it's the same thing, metaphor for life, and jiu-jitsu and everything. You use jiu-jitsu with my wife. You jiu-jitsu with business. Jiu-jitsu here. Someone rings up. It's jiu-jitsu. Yeah, but it's kind of like that old joke. How do you know someone does jiu-jitsu? It's like,
what's that? How?
They'll tell you within 5 minutes. But it's more.
That's the same as that. How do you know someone's a vegan? They'll tell you.
Yeah, it works for veganism. Works for triathlons or triathletes.
Yeah.
It works for CrossFitters. Yeah. But
pretty much everything.
Yeah, whatever everyone's excited in, and they're very exciting things to get into. But yeah, and just with regards to water, then I'm not sure if I've heard you talk about the deuterium. Have you looked into the deuterium research?
I don't talk about it much, but I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this something you're using?
No, I was actually sort of getting into it before COVID. I was looking into it quite heavily, and like it just sort of went on the back burner from COVID. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting topic with regards to the mitochondrial cells and how it's not just an energy cell, it's a metabolic water producing mechanism. So it gives deuterium-free metabolic water, which is pure H2O. So like, just what are your thoughts on that? What have you heard of it?
It's like a lot of things. There's, in theory, there's some merit to it, but there's also, if you are too isolated in what you're looking at, it can appear like it's really amazing. But when you look at it in a holistic sense amongst all the other systems and what water is and what it does, and what pure, if it's just depleted water, it's the theory is sound in isolation. But in my experience, it's not really, it doesn't have as beneficial effect, and it can take away from other systems. Same with your distilled water and all the other waters that people come out with. If you take parts out of it, if you take something that's whole and then you deplete it of something, it's no longer what it was. So then it's very hard to find that in nature as well, because it's always got minerals, it's always got some kind of osmolality to it, it's got an ionic charge to it that's made by nature. And that's why I always say that it's best to get most of your water from foods anyway, because it's bound properly by co-nutrients, enzymes, ionic charge, the right osmolality to be bioavailable to the body. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And I've got mates that are right into all of that and they swear by it, but they also don't have any significant problems. You know, they could do the same thing with almond milk. And then just, if they're excited about it, like how do you know someone drinks, ionic water or something? They'll tell you about it. It's because they're excited about it. And that excitement and that, I'm dedicated and invested in this, that's what gives them the feeling that I'm feeling great. I'm alive. I've got lots of energy. But the same thing comes from being excited about anything. So I just say, I'd say if you wanted to go ahead, it's certainly not going to kill you. I think you should try it if it's something that is, appealing to you. But does it have a really amazing global effect? I haven't seen it personally, especially when you look at the whole system. When you look at everything that it does, I haven't seen so much benefit, but I've seen what I can describe as placebo benefit, which is people being very focused, feeling very healthy, feeling very good about things. But I'm pretty sure that that's because they're just excited about what it is that they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I know a couple of people that, they were doing it a couple of years ago, but they're doing so many other things that it's like, how do you know what's health benefit when you're using like red light therapy and like all these products and modalities, and it's like eating sort of natural. They're taking these supplements and that, and it's like, wait, what thing is working? If you're saying you feel better, it's like, I feel great because I'm doing all this like fantastic stuff, but it's like, which one is doing anything? It appeals
to biohackers, people that are into biohacking, and they're doing like 100 different things, like you say. So then you never know what the thing is that is doing the benefit to you, or even if it's just your excitement about it all in general. Because if you think about what people do in that space, they generally don't stick at anything for 10, 20 years. Like today it's this water, tomorrow it's that water, the next day it's lemons, the next day I'm going vegan for 3 weeks, the next day, I'm only eating meat, and then the next day I'm going on this machine. And then all of these different things, they cycle through so many times that you just never know, because the human organism is, it definitely runs on cycles and obviously within seasons. But then if you haven't done something for at least 7 years, you can't actually tell that that's the thing that's doing you the good, because that's how long it takes for the body to completely go through a changeover. And we do run in 7-year cycles as a general rule as well. So when somebody hasn't done a way of eating or a way of being or a lifestyle for at least 7 years, preferably 10 or more for me anyway, if I'm going to listen to someone, I'm not really that interested in it, because it's interesting as an idea, but to me, it's not tried, tested, and proven until it's been done absolutely to the letter for at least 7 years. And I don't see many diets or protocols or lifestyle regimes or anything that people are doing, generally like a few weeks. They go, I feel great, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to do a blog. This is the new thing.
Yeah, well, I did carnivore for a couple of months, but like I did it my way, which was like all beef products. So it's like the bone broths and the my jerky and just every cut of I could of the meat, ribs, everything, but also salt, ghee, and kale. So it was like 4 ingredients, and I felt great for a month. And then I was adding one ingredient at a time. It's like a, what do you call it? Those diets where you start with nothing, then you start adding. Anyway, I started adding at a time. Then I found that broccoli made my stomach, affected my stomach. But then I realized broccoli and beef don't mix well together. So it's like, but when I was doing that, I actually felt the best. I had a geographic tongue. If you can see there, so and all the white stuff. And it was the first time in my life that the white stuff had all gone. And it was like, and I felt great. But then I went overseas, and it was very hard to keep up to such a strict diet while I was in Greece a few years ago. But and there's been doing a lot of intermittent fasting as well. But that's probably the only thing in terms of diet I've been doing for a long term. Probably maybe going on 3-4 years now. I find that's good, but maybe I need to change that. But
it's not necessarily eating the same foods, because you generally don't do that anyway, because your body does adapt, and you do need to meet the needs of your body. Because if you just go by, this is the right diet, and you only stay on those foods, and it's a mental thing, it's not really the right way to go. What I'm talking about is, things like a specific type of water, or a specific supplement, or a specific way of eating. So as in, I'm cutting out all of these food groups, like I'm only being vegan, or I'm only eating meat, or something like that. It's not saying that you don't change between having broth or raw stuff or cooked stuff. It's I should clarify that. So what I mean is that if you cut out entire food groups for 7 years, then you can tell me that it's 7 to 10 years. Then you can say that it's working all right. But your diet within how you eat will still vary. The amount of fat will increase, decrease. Whether it's raw or cooked, like those ratios may increase, decrease. Or if you go all raw or all cooked, it's just there's variations within that. But what I'm talking about is a specific constant where it's only this type of water. I never have spring water. I never have anything else. It's only this type of water. And then see if that has a negative or positive effect after 7 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's also, I was going to add something up. With regards to the water and getting it from foods, like when I was doing triathlons, they say when you're thirsty, it's too late. Obviously, that's during a sporting event, but it's like, can you, like with regards to thirst, is the best thing would be to have fruit, something like that?
Well, I mean, the idea that it's too late when you're thirsty is kind of silly because it's, I don't know, it's just saying that your whole mechanisms in your body are all backwards, they're broken. So you've got to preempt nature, which you don't have to do. I know that the theory, because that's what you learn when you do sports medicine and science and nutrition, is you learn that if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. But I think that's in reference to if you're thirsty, you need water. And if you're dehydrated, you need water. I think that's what they mean. To say that you're like dehydrated it's a negative thing. It's too late. That's really taking things a bit far. So, I mean, obviously, if you're doing a lot of exercise, you're going to be thirsty more regularly, but you just drink and then you're good. Then you're not thirsty. It's not like you've got chronic dehydration, which is an actual condition that is harmful. It's just you're thirsty. Yeah. And then it replenishes immediately. So it's a little bit, I don't think it's a good way to teach people in that system, the way they tell people it's too late. You're doing damage.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, I'm thirsty, and then you're trying to do a race and you're like all downhill now. Oh no, I'm thirsty. Oh no, my whole race is ruined. I can't. How am I going to get? Oh no, there's a cramp. Oh yeah.
Yeah, how's my performance going to be optimum if I'm thirsty? Because if I'm thirsty, I'm dehydrated. If I'm dehydrated, my performance isn't going to be optimal. It's just that whole mental cycle will kick in. And it's there for a reason. I mean, that whole system is not there to serve us. So it's there. It's a bit ridiculous. So anyway, if you're going to be drinking during an event, that's fine. If you want to be more hydrated, you have something that is more electrolyte in nature, which is something with like lemon in it, for example, honey, maybe a sprinkle of salt, something like that, but not artificial electrolyte drinks like Gatorade and Powerade and things like that. I've never seen anything that color in nature, so I wouldn't be drinking that.
Yeah, the bright blues and So with what you were saying before, I keep remembering, and then it just keeps.
The old slippery brain.
The old slippery brain. When we're talking about the, it's like seasonal. Your diet and like how our body reacts as well. And like just like with the winter recently in Melbourne, it's just been horrific. Well, say horrific, whatever. Being a bit hyperbolic, but it's just been so cold, and like with my arthritis in my body, it's like, and because I'm so skinny, I'm probably a few kilos less than I should be, but it's just been so cold, haven't been able to, and just get stiff and move, and it's just down with the energy. And yesterday especially, and today, like the weather's been, it's just changed way better. I was in the garden barefoot, bare hands, just like half the day yesterday, and it was just great. I just went out to do a bit of grounding, and it's like, oh well, I'm here. Started weeding, and it just felt good and was getting more and more energy, as opposed to the last few months. It's been like less. I've been drained of energy every time I go to the garden or go outside with the winter, with the cold. And like the sun's good, but then when the clouds come in, it's been really freezing. And it's like but I think the seasonal aspect of eating certain things like how the Orthodox or the Christians, they fast and do Lents, but they'll do like a feast and then do Lent and have feasts on either side or whatever. But they'll do their, I guess, vegan diet for like a month or 40 days and then almost do like full carnivore kind of for a little bit. So it's like mixing up, I think. And like you said, we're adaptable and it's like we sort of flow with the seasons. Yeah, I just thought like, yeah, just want to add that. And like your thoughts on flowing like that, like in terms of.
For sure.
Living.
But some of that's not necessarily flowing. It's indoctrinated, as in they've written themselves, this is when we fast, this is when we feast. So it's more going, and yeah, they are seasonal as well because they'll happen at certain times of the year. So, I mean, I think they're great, but it's the same thing as I said at the start with the hierarchy, and you get the chart of the hierarchy of needs. They're good because they get you into a certain frame of reference. And then once you've got that and you've lived that and you've embodied that, then it's time to move on to that more flow state where because your body is speaking to the environment itself, and your body and the environment are agreeing, saying, now it's time to feast. Now it's time to fast. Now it's time to eat this sort of stuff. Now it's time to eat that sort of stuff, as opposed to, all right, April 1st comes around. Now we eat this or we fast that. But it's valuable to begin with. It really is. And if I really do recommend, if people aren't anywhere near any of that yet, that you do go by a regime or a protocol or a system of some kind that you follow, so that it does tap you into the environment to a better degree. And then it starts to be a dialogue. It's like when we're in a tribe, we're basically governed by the tribal mind, and we don't step outside of that because it threatens the safety or the security of the tribe, the thing that you're in. But once you've gotten to that, you've gotten to know yourself, you've got skills, you've got connection, then it's time to step out, because otherwise that tribal mind will hold you back. And then you've got to step out and be part of a greater mind and connected to yourself more than just the tribe. So the same thing with protocols and charts and hierarchies of needs. Learn it for sure, embody it, and then move beyond that into your own state.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like make it your own. Yeah, it's like, well, it's no point just following someone and just blindly just following, going, oh yeah, this is this, and just being dogmatic about it. It's about, like, why are we doing this, and asking questions, and it's like understanding, and then like observing and saying, okay, this is what happens in nature and stuff. And so like you live more in the rural area in New South Wales, like past.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, inland a bit.
So what have you had? Do you have a connection with the local animals, birds, or anything in the area that come visit you on a daily basis? And just talk about that on the energetic level.
Yeah, I don't know if they visit me. Maybe they do, but I love the black cockatoos. Are one of the ones that I have a really close connection with, and they're just they're pretty amazing for a lot of reasons. One is just the way that they move. I mean, if you watch them, they're almost like they're not even part of the same resonance as everything else. They'll go in a group of three and they're flapping like this. And it's like, are you going in slow motion? What's the go? Because the other birds are just going flapping everywhere. And these ones are just cruising through almost like they're in a different medium. It's like they're in a thicker kind of air or something where they barely have to flap their wings or anything like that. I mean, even an eagle will glide really well, but they still flap more than a black cockatoo. And their call, their voice, everything about them is just pretty special. Got tawny frogmouse that come around a lot. They're really cool. They're very, I don't know, there's something about them. They're very wise or ancient or something. They've got a lot of presence about them. And plenty of snakes. The snakes are always a sign of something. It's always something when you've got a snake around or you sighted a snake, there's always something in that. And I've had a few snake dreams recently as well. Those are always quite telling. So plenty around here. It's definitely a great place. I just can't imagine, being around cities or whatever where people just aren't seeing animals. They're not having that natural interaction with the environment, because once you're around it and you've connected to it, it's just, you go, how can people just not. And I remember actually my friend, his partner does, she can speak Cantonese and Mandarin, and she does a lot of business with China. And some kids come over from China, and they're like 6, 7 years old, 8, even up to 9. And they'll take them to the beach, and then it's like they've never had their shoes off before. They don't even know how to operate. Like, imagine that, going that long without ever having your shoes off, like standing on something natural, and then never seen the stars before, because in their cities it's so light polluted, and they're seeing the stars for the first time, and they're 8 years old, and it just blows my mind to think that that could be a way that people are raised these days, and they don't have this connection and affinity with animals and plants and the stars and everything else.
Yeah, well, I find that the Cockies, I get the white Cockies that visit me. They've got a lot of attitude, but they've all got different personalities. There's and they come in different groups. There's usually one that's always there. And they'll come and sit by the door and knock on the door. Sometimes they actually fly onto the screen doors, and they're waiting for us to come out. If, you feed them then? Allegedly, I got some seeds for them. Allegedly, but if I don't feed them, they start decapitating my entire every plant I've got.
Yeah,
they'll go into my garden, start they cut off I bought a little fig tree. They cut off the leaves of that. All the plants
I think
around.
It's awesome the fact that, like, with birds, with kookaburras and magpies and other birds, you can literally hand feed them after not a long time. You start giving them some food, and a wild bird, they'll come and take it out of your hand. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and they have personalities, but the magpies, there's magpies that come as well. It's like a whole bloody, and then the minor birds come, and it's like battles and dancing going on in the sky. Then you see the ravens come. It's like an orchestra. And when you plant seeds, do you ever put the seeds in your mouth? And
most of the time.
Yeah. So can you talk about how that imparts the energetics?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the theory goes that, seeds need to germinate, and they generally germinate in moisture like that. So if you put them in your mouth and you have them there for enough time, it can help them to get the signal to germinate. And when your DNA is imparted through the saliva to the seed itself, it gets some communication. And so then it picks up a little bit on your resonance. So then when it does sprout and then it grows into its plant, it has some memory of you. So then, because its profile is in relation to the environment, which is in relation to the water that falls on it through the rain, the amount of sunlight it gets, this nutrient profile of the soil. And it basically is in a dance with that, and it grows in a specific way that is in relation to its environment. And so when it's had our energetics imparted into it, that is part of its environment, us, especially if we're around it and we water it and we talk to it. And we might pee on it or spit on it or something like that. And then we're part of its environment. So what it will produce will be of benefit to us more so than if it's just a random plant from somewhere else and it hasn't got our imprint in it. Is that your understanding of it as well? Or?
Yeah, it makes sense. But how do you obviously prove this thing? But it's why not? And if it can help it germinate, but mechanically it can help.
That's how the story goes, because we don't necessarily really know. But at the same time, I would rather because what we carry, what we project is the reality essentially. So if our reality is being projected from a greater connection to the plant, that can only be a benefit, because the connection to it is, I should say, the disconnection to things in nature is part of what causes our dis-ease in life. So if we can cultivate a greater connection, whether germinating seeds in your mouth is a real thing or not, I'd still rather live that way, because it gives me, and I can project that greater connection.
Yeah, and then it's and if you make your own soil, it just works with everything. The more energy you put in, the It's like with business, like with life, relationships. Energy in, energy out kind of thing. Have you? I'm not sure if you've heard. There's a website called opensourceecology.org. I'm not sure if you've seen that. It's basically it's like this kind of basically 3D. It's like a 3D printing workshop where they teach you how to like basically build tractors and like farming equipment with a 3D printer and with machine shop and like on the way cheaper. Basically, like in case if civilization ends or if the internet ends and you've got this resource, you can build and you can fix all your farm equipment without actually having to rely on German engineering or something else, and they've got like open source plans. But I'm not sure if you've heard of them or if there's anyone that does that similar sort of thing here in Australia when they do workshops and stuff.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I hear of similar things, but I just don't know anyone personally. I've got a few mates that are right into that. They're doing 3D printing and they're using things like hempcrete and aircrete they're combining hempcrete and aircrete, and they're doing a lot of things like that. I think it's a really good way forward for something that makes things affordable and efficient. And but at the end of the day, I'd still rather build something with my hands out of mud. And that's just me though, Like I really think that earth ships are a great idea, which is where you're building from just junk, tires and all that. But at the end of the day, I don't want to live in something like rubber tires. I want to live in something that's natural, comes from the earth, but I still think it's a great idea. So I also think 3D printing things is an amazing idea, especially if it's for automotive parts.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah. So you can be self-sufficient in your own little bloody environment without having to. Yeah, and that sort of stuff's going to be more important in the coming times.
Yeah, I've got this idea that that's what people used to do. You know how there's been a lot of other civilizations and the technology and everything is like hidden somewhere from us, the Illuminati and whoever else has got that. But I reckon that that's what they've done in other times is they've had that ability. I mean, they show it all the time in movies and what's that show? Rick and Morty and Futurama and those kinds of shows. They'll just have like this laser gun thing that they just go, bzz, they beam something and it just creates something for them, either a portal or a car or something. It just makes it. And I'm just thinking they haven't just made that up out of thin air. I mean, that's come from somewhere. That's something that we've been able to do and can do now, but is hidden from us. I think 3D printing is just, a vestige of that. And I really think that that's highly possible and what's happened a lot before.
Yeah, well, like when you got buildings that were allegedly built 100 years ago that go 6 to 10 stories underneath the roads, you start to wonder what's going on. And they got windows underneath the grounds for some reason. But it's like we could probably do because I heard your talk with Campbell from Autodidactic. It was interesting. That was a good show. But I love the whole. I'm just obsessed with the whole Tartarian and the mud flood story, and it's like it just doesn't make sense. Everywhere you look in history, it's just like even anything in this reality, really. Like you look at science, you look at medicine, you look at like the world politics, and you look at everything, and it's just all a facade, But
it's all lies.
Yeah, and have you heard of Auto-Hemotherapia?
The what? Sorry,
Auto-Hemotherapia or hemotherapy. It was one of those. There's a doctor in Brazil that was doing it a while ago, and he was like, he'd take the blood out of the arm and inject it like into the muscle in the butt. And apparently it's like, and it's all illegal and stuff, suppressed and that. But and I think people are doing it with their animals, veterinary science at the moment, but or they were, but I'm not sure. It was Dr. Louise Mora, I think it was. It was a dude in Brazil that was helping people, but yeah, it's basically take the blood out of the vein and put it into the muscle. And the theory was it's supposed to produce an inflammatory reaction, but it's because it's your own blood, it's not going to be rejected. And
Yeah,
that'll
I used to
cause
get that done about 15 years ago. I used to experiment with that.
Yeah.
But we also did it with a homeopathic solution. I'll put it that way. So what we do is you would take blood from somewhere, one side of the body, whichever side you took it from, you would inject it into the other. So you would take out about that much blood into a syringe, and then you could either just put that into your body, or we would actually mix it with something else, mix it with a solution, and then inject that usually into the glute of the other side, in the other side of the body. And then, look, I think I'd never had autoimmune conditions, and I think it's usually more suited to something like that. It's a way to just kind of trick the body in some way to react to itself in an autoimmune way, but in a way that is brings down the inflammation. So yeah, I'm not super familiar with it. I mean, I have experimented with it, but I haven't looked at it long term as a protocol for people who have certain conditions, but I know it does have merit for sure.
Okay. Yeah, well, like that's more information than I could probably get from anyone else about it. At least you've tried it, so and you've got experience with it, so that's a main thing. So
yeah, I learned that from a European doctor, not an Australian one.
yeah. Well, like this is from going to Brazil and like just hearing about it, and then it's like, well, I wonder if there's merit to that. And yeah, you can't find anything in English in that. So, so you just want to get into a bit of the medical stuff, like a bit more like into like dentistry and just naturally, like, well, even within the mainstream science, there is merit to the teeth being able to diagnose future or like other parts of your body. But then you can go into the sort of Eastern sort of philosophies where they, like with the meridian point or whatever with the teeth. So can you talk about A, modern dentistry, and B, sort of the importance of teeth in being able to diagnose or understand our bodies?
Yeah, so every tooth is connected to a meridian in the body. And if you have certain conditions with different parts of the teeth and in different areas, it can definitely show up. The same with, it's like iridology. The eyes can show where various inconsistencies within the body might be, or they can also show where there's a predisposition for something to occur that hasn't yet occurred. Teeth are like that. The brain itself mostly does detoxify through the mouth, as in through the teeth and the gums, the tongue. And the teeth themselves, if there's any kind of misalignment, it can really cause the nervous system a lot of stress. So that's why sometimes if you've got something that's wedged between your teeth, for example, and then you kind of like will be trying real hard, and it's like, oh, I've got to get that out. It's really annoying. Yeah. And some people will even make their tongue bleed trying to like get something out from between their teeth, because as soon as the alignment is moved, like let's say you've got something wedged up between teeth and it's moved the alignment, it's changing the meridians, and it's got a massive effect on the nervous system.
So it's like the energy levels being sort of disrupted there.
Exactly. It's almost like your balance, it's almost like it's off. And so as a diagnostic tool, it's pretty good. I mean, if you look at what, horse trainers do, they're dealing with multiple millions of dollars in horses, as in for horse racing. And they'll always look inside the mouth of a potential horse before they decide it's going to be bought for X number of millions of dollars, because it shows the health of the overall body. How are the teeth? How is the structure? How are they decayed? What's the state of the mouth and the teeth and the gums? That's a really good indication as to the health of the body. And then likewise, improving the dental health can, in some ways, improve the health of the rest of the body as well, especially if you're concentrating specifically on healing certain parts of the teeth, either a discoloration or a decay or a cavity or a misalignment or something like that.
And what is healing it?
What's healing what?
What is healing the teeth, or what is like to keep it clean or whatever? It's like, okay, well, all right, I'm sitting there with my Colgate toothpaste. Yeah, I'm doing a good job. Not that that's not me, but I'm just for argument's sake, brushing my teeth.
Yeah, probably not
keep it clean. Yeah, probably not Colgate, but all right. So like a natural toothpaste, that's like whatever, or one you make yourself with bicarb or whatever, with baking soda, whatever, or just in terms of keeping clean and whether or not are we doing damage to our teeth by trying to keep them clean and white.
Yeah, it's really interesting on that, because it's really dependent on the individual's lifestyle. Because people say, well, my teeth are in better condition now because I've been brushing twice a day and flossing and everything else. But if we take a natural human in a natural environment, you basically don't brush your teeth. There's no point. You're not getting plenty of sugar on them. You're not having an imbalanced life as far as too much stress. You're not eating an imbalanced diet. You're not having chemicals put in your body, all of that. So what applies to just a human in its natural environment is different to what applies to us in our modern world. There's obviously carryover, but there are differences. So dental hygiene is actually still important in modern life to the degree to which you are out of balance of living a natural life. So therefore, if you're eating an unnatural diet, you're surrounded by non-natural things and you're overly stressed, then you're going to have to pay attention to dental hygiene specifically. But people in the natural environment don't brush their teeth twice a day and use toothpaste and floss their teeth and all that kind of stuff. So what can somebody do to keep their teeth in good condition? Well, you can brush. You can use natural toothpaste. Either you buy natural toothpaste, but most of that's got too many chemicals in it anyway. Just making it out of things like coconut oil, coconut cream, clay, herbs, essential oils, bicarb, whatever. You can make a good toothpaste out of that, which can help at least keep them clean. Then on top of that, you've got to watch the diet. So things that aren't caustic to the teeth, which means not too many things that have too many acids in them. I mean, lemon juice has a lot of acid in it, for example. And so therefore, even though it's natural, it's actually good to rinse the mouth if you get too much citric acid on your teeth.
Well, what about the timing? Like, say, before you go to bed, you can like not to have like a sugary drink or an acidic drink and then brush your teeth with a base, because that's causing a reaction on your teeth, like a chemical reaction. Like through, chemistry 101, acid and base, you actually, so that's actually also degrading the teeth as well, mate. Like
it is. Yeah. You want to make sure that you just rinse with water, for example. We'll get to the timing. It is important. So in general, though, you got to make sure that you're not eating things that are just caustic to the teeth and then without at least rinsing the mouth. Secondary to that is that what happens when it hits your body, because it's all about chemical reactions. So when you have too much, I think it's phosphoric acid. I can't remember. I mean, I learned this stuff 20 years ago. Whatever is in soda, basically. What happens is that when it makes the body highly acidic, it needs to return itself to alkaline. And what it has to do is use hydrogen to buffer that and also calcium. So then it'll leach that from your teeth and bones, but it will decay your teeth from the inside out rather than just it being on the teeth. So we've really got to watch the balance of things that we put in our body. And obviously then the things that are natural are better than the things that are processed and unnatural and chemical driven, because they will cause the teeth to decay. On top of that, general lifestyle stress, that's got to be kept low for two reasons. One, we still need to use calcium and other minerals to buffer the stress, which means drawing it from the teeth, bones, and other elements of the body. And second of all, because we can do things like grind our teeth at night. Or if we're mouth breathing a lot, that can also decay teeth. Some people actually experience really good benefits from taping their mouth closed while they sleep. Then there's the way that we brush, and sometimes too often. So in Ayurvedic practices, they'll brush once a day, not twice. And then they will still clean their teeth, but it will be done with oil pulling, rinsing, and certain chewing of certain herbs that freshen the mouth and
tongue
clean
scraping.
it. Yep, tongue scraping. But they don't like too much of this stuff is not actually good for the enamel. So there's other ways to keep it clean, such as oil pulling, tongue scraping, and chewing of certain herbs, or using a miswak stick, which is just a natural stick that's got fibrous bristles on it that you can use to just gently clean the teeth. And definitely not putting fluoride in your mouth. That's probably the worst thing you can put in there. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and timing. Sorry. Yeah, timing, Sabbath. So you've got to watch the timing of things, because if you brush too close to having food, for example, you're not going to allow the cycle of bacterial action and then acidity and alkalinity to actually take place before you're just cleaning the surface of the teeth. You can actually do some damage. And like you said, acids and bases don't mix very well. So then if you go rinsing bicarb, for example, straight after lemon juice, might have a bit too much of a reaction on the teeth and can weaken the teeth. Many other things, but that's just some.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, a lot of you don't hear many people talking about that. So that was good.
And nutrition though, like it's not just not what to have, but the things that to have that are more beneficial. Obviously, anything that's high in minerals, anything that's mineral dense, super high in minerals, it's good for the teeth. And then specifically, if you can get vitamin K naturally in the diet, that's really good for healing cavities and tooth decay. The highest that I know of is raw butter oil, but there are other foods. If you just look up anything that's naturally high in vitamin K, that is specific to cavities in the teeth.
All right, no worries. And I think we've just got a few more minutes left, so I just want to just touch on. So I mentioned that to you via email. I wanted to maybe start a show or on Black's Law Dictionary, just going through a few of the words, just sort of explaining and do a show on it. And so just want to, like, what are your, well, I'll say favorite words, but like the most surprising words, or like some interesting words that you found through your research that like stick out to you? What are the two or three most ones that stand out to you the most in terms of
the real meaning of?
As in the dramatic change, like the inversion of the meanings, like.
Yeah, right. Well, the first one that I ever came across was understand. The first words were understand and government. Understand meaning to stand under, to give your authority away to the one that made an offer, or to ask if you understand. And then government meaning govern, to control, and ment is, I think, Latin for mind. Whatever it is, Latin or whatever, Greek, whatever it is, it just means mind. So then to control the mind, essentially, that's what government is. And those were the first two that I learned. And I thought, oh, well, this is super interesting. So then, I guess ones that I've used to my benefit then are consent and perform. These are just legal terms that relate to commerce. So I'm just trying to think of one that's been very empowering to use. I don't think one off the top of my head. It's just ones to avoid usually. Yeah, have you got any? Let me just do a quick search. I'm going to have a look in it. Have you got any that you found that you really like?
Obviously there's the person and the people, like that's just the general standard one. That's like, what is a person? What are people? And like hue man, what is hue? It's like, there's a color of man, or
also means monster in some definitions.
So it's almost like, you almost think that that's a artificial intelligence definition. I mean, I haven't really looked too much into it, but just understand, like, especially the last few weeks, like it seems that everyone is talking about understand. I don't stand under you, and I've heard that not just through our circles, through other circles, and through just talking to people. It's like, the policeman said, "Oh, do you understand?" It's like, no, I don't understand. No, and Yeah, I was watching, well, halfway through the one you did with Zev, where you were like, oh, I comprehend, I don't understand. Yeah. Yeah, that just seems to be in the ether at the moment. A lot of people are grabbing onto that one. Yeah.
Yeah, good. It's a good thing to do. I think it'd be cool if you did a little show on the little terminologies. Black's Law would be great. There's other law dictionaries that are still good. Even Butterworth, which is Australian, that might be worth going through as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, person was one of the ones I think that's most empowering, actually, now that I think about it, that you brought up. Yeah, because it's just everything other than a living man or a woman. It's like a trustee in bankruptcy, a driver, citizen, ratepayer, taxpayer, resident, all of those words that you just go, oh, I've agreed to be in all of those in my lifetime before, but none of those represent anything that's living. They all represent entities that are non-living. So, yeah, that's probably one of the more empowering ones. And then I reckon that would be it.
Yeah, and corporation and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, a corporation comes from the word corpse, which is a dead thing, and then orate is to speak. So a corporation is essentially a dead man speaking, or an entity speaking.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right. All right. Any final words you want to put out there for this one? I probably didn't even touch a quarter of what I wanted to go through, but yeah, that's fine.
That's all right. We can do it. We can do more.
Yeah, that was a good info there, so I'm glad with that. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's always, I always like your questions. You ask more, you ask some deeper questions, which is good. And yeah, I mean, to leave people with anything, it's really just to be embodied in this experience of what is happening now. I think too many people, like you said earlier, they're getting too caught up in their social media and events that are going on and filling themselves with fear. It's really not helpful in any way or useful. And that whole part of going through something that is structured is an important aspect. And then coming out of that into a flow state. I think that's really important for people to go through as a process. So whether that be a regimented training structure like Tai Chi or Jiu-Jitsu or something that's regimented, and then coming through that, or learning about a hierarchy, or learning about fasting and when to do it on a cycle, and then going through that to become part of the process. And then through that, you are relinquished from that. And likewise, there are some things you might have to do to get through what we're going through in the world, because it's a control thing. And then you can come through that into being embodied completely in yourself and completely autonomous. So having that experience, though, is really important. I think a lot of people are almost, I don't want to have this experience, but it's here to have it. It's not really going away anytime soon. So I think the more people can embrace it and then use some tools to move through it, like maybe they're going to do breath work for 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, like you suggested, or maybe it's learning about diet better, or learning about something better, learning some legal definitions, something that's a structure to be able to move into this experience and then to come through it into a much greater degree of fluency and self-recognition and whatever is the opposite end of the spectrum to fear. I won't say like love, but to move away from that state of being. And I think that process is really important to do that.
That's well said. That's beautiful. I agree. That's that's pretty much it. So cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks Tom. Thanks for that. And we'll catch you on the other side. All righty, guys. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Tom as much as I did. Be sure to check out Tom's website, tombarnett.tv. Be sure to check out his other socials when they're up, and be sure to check out my socials, comment down below, hit that like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. And we'll catch you next time. Peace. Hey, man.
Nice to have a
good. Can you hear me?
A sneaky entrance.
Yeah. Well, I've got a snake on my thing, so it's applicable.
Nice.
So I just want to get this screen all ready. How are you, man?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, lots happened since last time we spoke. With a lot more harsher lockdowns.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, do you know what you want to go through today?
Yeah, I've got a few things. I want to touch a few things, a little bit on water, but on a few different topics that I don't think you've spoken about. A bit to do with Babylon and a couple of medical things, mostly
cool.
sort of natural things and but gearing everything towards solutions. Kind of we can just while everyone's in such a negative state on that. So that's kind of
sweet. I liked your questions last time. They were good.
No worries.
They were different.